The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us to take a look at Seamless Work-Based Learning, a new tool designed to help you manage your work-based learning and advisory board activities. I'm your host, Brett Pulowski, with the National Center for College and Career Transitions. Before we get started, I wanted to spend a moment on a few technical notes. There are two options for sound: computer speakers and telephone. You can use the button on the right to switch if you need to. We have all participants on mute to minimize background noise. And finally, we will have a question and answer period at the end of the session, so please feel free to type in your questions into the questions field on the right of your screen as we go. Before we get into the walkthrough, let me start by sharing a bit of background on the company behind Seamless and the development of the product. Seamless Work-Based Learning was developed by the National Center for College and Career Transitions, an organization that I co-founded with my partner, Hans Meter. Our focus since launch has been on career-connected learning, which is built into our mission statement: every learner with a dream and a plan, and every community with a capable and ready workforce. Over the past several years, we've pursued that mission by offering professional development, community coaching, and technical assistance to states, districts, and others. We've also developed several resources to support career-connected learning, including books like The Power and Promise of Pathways, the new Pathways Design Suite, and Career Smart Classrooms, a set of resources to help educators across the school incorporate career content into their classrooms. My role with NC3T has always been focused on employer engagement. In fact, I've been working in this field for about 20 years now, which has included consulting, training, and the development of several resources. I was the lead author of the Employer Engagement Toolkit, co-authored Building Advisory Boards That Matter with my partner Hans, and have written guides for a number of state departments of education on advisory boards, employer engagement, and registered apprenticeships, among other topics. And I mention all that just to note that I have a deep commitment to work-based learning. And as the lead developer of Seamless, I'm committed to make it the resource that I know practitioners need in order to do the best job that they can. Seamless Work-Based Learning is intended to serve as your virtual assistant in order to make work-based learning as easy and as fast as possible. Work-based learning is an incredibly powerful strategy for student engagement and preparation, but the reality is that it's time-intensive, it can be difficult to manage, and there's not a lot of information out there on how to do it well. Seamless was created to change that. Our goal with Seamless is to help you find new partners, to manage the partners that you already have, to set up and manage work-based learning experiences, to run a strong advisory board, and to easily keep track of your work-based learning activity. Seamless Work-Based Learning began accepting subscribers this past March with version 1.0, our launch version, and version 2.0 was released on August 1st. Our latest rounds of upgrade went live on December 1st, just last week, and our goal is to release new feature sets every 4 to 6 months. For today's walkthrough, we'll take a brief tour through each of our portals. We'll see how things work for educators and administrators. Then we'll look at Seamless through the eyes of an employer and then as a student. So let's open up Seamless and take a look. So I should note that while we're looking at this through a computer, Seamless is a browser-based system, which means that you can do all of this on your phone as well, or your iPad, any device with an internet browser. You can use Seamless. There's nothing to download and everything is online. And I should also note that on the education front, Seamless has two portals, one for administrators, which are school and district administrators, the other for educators. When I logged in, I'm actually in the School Institute dashboard, which is for administrators. I'm going to switch to the educator view, which is where we'll spend most of our time today. So we'll start with a quick tour of the dashboard here. You can see that we have completed metrics, or key metrics across the top, completed activities, upcoming activities, number of advisory boards, how many active partners we have. We have an activities calendar, which is color-coded with work-based learning activities and advisory board meetings. We have our most recently added partners here, and looking down the left-hand navigation, as an educator, I can search for new partners, through the employer search area, manage my own personal list of partners, set up and manage all my work-based learning activities, everything from guest speakers to apprenticeships. I have a suite of templates for advisory boards and work-based learning activities here in the resources library. We have a place to run my advisory boards, a place for information on students and tags. And tags are essentially, they're optional, but they're sort of shorthand for working with groups of students, like your auto tech class, your cosmetology class, your robotics class, and so on. We have a job board for students to search for opportunities directly, and that's a brand new feature. We have a place to run reports on work-based learning and advisory board activities. And finally, we have the knowledge base, which is where you'll find your user guides, your training videos, FAQs, and a support line. So we'll start at the top. We'll take a look first at the employer search area. And this is a place for educators to search for new partners, people they're not working with yet. You can think of this as just a really good phone book. And these are going to be employers who have been entered by your school and district administrators. So I'm going to switch to that portal so you can see what that looks like. All right, so here I am in the administrator dashboard. We'll take a look at the employer directory. So just a quick note about pretty much any list view in Seamless. You see that we have up and down arrows next to each of the column heads. You can sort by various criteria. You can invite employers here to log into the system and manage their own listings. You can add employers one at a time or do bulk imports. If you've got your data in Excel spreadsheets, we can get it into the system. We can also export to Excel. And we also have multiple search criteria. So we'll go into one of these and see what's in here. So we have two tabs. At the top, we've got our employer details and our list of opportunities. You see here that the employer details, we start out with some fairly basic information, phone number, website, address. One of the new features launched in December is that now you can create your own tags to describe employers. When we first launched the system, we started with the 16 career clusters, and what we heard from users is they wanted to be able to code employers in different ways. So maybe they've got 5 academies within their school, they have 12 pathways across their district, and they want to be able to search for employers that way. So you can now create your own tags and attach multiple tags to employers. You can also upload documents for the employer, maybe a company brochure or something like that. And as we scroll down, we see our contact for work-based learning inquiries. We decide which schools are going to be able to see this listing. So multiple schools can see this employer listing. There's a place for a description of the company. And then we have internal notes, which are notes that your administrators and educators can see, but your employers cannot. Just in case there are internal notes you want to share, such as let's not call this person until December 1st or so on. We scroll back up and we've got our list of opportunities, and this is what educators are searching when they're looking for new partners. So here we're able to see what this employer is interested in doing. So they're willing to come in as a guest speaker, and here's a description of what they're willing to do. So they can talk about careers in this industry. As we scroll down, we can see they're willing to host site visits. They can do that on Mondays and Fridays in the winter and spring, and so on. So basically, we're offering educators some really clear information prior to them reaching out to this employer. I'm going to switch back to the educator console so we can see what this looks like from an educator's point of view. All right, so here I am as an educator. I'm searching for new partners. I can see all the companies listed, but say that I want to find someone in the architecture construction cluster or whatever keywords I've set aside for these employers who is willing to come in as a guest speaker. So I search for that. I've got a handful of companies I can explore. We'll take a look at AZ Electric, the company we were just looking at. And so here I can see all the information, the tags, any documents that were uploaded, my primary contact for reaching out for work-based learning opportunities. And as I scroll down, here are the things that this employer has said that they would be interested in doing. So I've got very clear information before I reach out. It's a very qualified opportunity to reach out to a new partner. So one of the new changes that we rolled out in December, in addition to educators searching for employers as new partners, we just added a job board so that we can provide opportunities for students to search directly through the student portal. So these would be very specific opportunities like a summer internship, job shadowing opportunity, mentoring, and that sort of thing. So we will look at this through the eyes of a student when we get to the student portal, but for an educator, we'll see what this looks like because they're the ones who are managing these opportunities. Employers can create postings for the job boards, but educators have to review and approve before students can see them. So you can see we've got information on the employer, when the opportunity starts, when we want the posting to be visible, how long the experience is, whether it's paid or unpaid, and some additional information. Who is the contact person for the application, requirements for the opportunity, and we can decide which students are able to see this. So if we only want our auto tech students to be able to see this, then we would only select auto tech, for example. So we can just delete these. We can add students one at a time if we only want a handful of students to see them. Or we can say I want all my auto tech students to see it, and they all load in. And those will be the only students who will be able to see this job board posting. All right, so I'm going to go back. And we'll take a look. Once I've made contact with an employer, if I want to set up a work-based learning activity with them, if I want to invite them to my advisory board, I need to put them in my own personal list of partners, which is my partners. And so again, very similar list view, and you'll find that consistent across the system. Take a look at Plumgood here. And so again, we have two tabs at the top, partner details, and this time a list of partnership activities. Because this is one of my active partners, I can see what work-based learning activities I have set up for them. As I look at the partner details, I see that I can categorize them any way I want. As I scroll down, I've got multiple people at the company that I work with. And if I scroll back up, because I want to see what activities I'm doing with this employer, I can see under the list of partnership activities every work-based learning activity associated with this employer. So the name of the activity, the type of activity, when the activity is going to take place or has taken place, and the status. Now, I can go there directly, but there's a couple other things I want to look at prior to that. So if we go back to the partner view, and keep in mind I've got multiple people at the company I work with, so I want to see what each of them are doing individually. So I can click into Emily Moore's record, and first of all I can see her advisory board service, the boards that she serves on, what her role is when her term expires. Of course, we'll look at the advisory boards in greater detail in a minute, but I can also see her list of activities. So I can see the work-based learning activities that she personally has been invited to. Now, before we look at the work-based learning activities, I want to spend just a second looking at the tags and the students so you can see how those are set up, because that feeds into setting up work-based learning activities. So tags, as I mentioned, these are optional. You don't have to use them, but it's very convenient. So if you're setting up a work-based learning activity with 30 students in your robotics class, for example, you can either tag the students one at a time, so you're taking 30 actions, or you can just click robotics class and all 30 students load into the activity. You can see we've got a short tag. It's, I think, up to 10 characters. The class, some people use these for their career technical student organization. Some people use them for their, class of 2021, class of 2022, and that sort of thing. And you can identify the educator associated with that group. As we look at the student records, we have pretty basic information on the students currently. This is going to expand with one of the other features we'll talk about in a few minutes. But you can see just basic information on the student, contact information, and this is where we identify the classes or the CTSOs or the graduating year that we want to associate with the student. And of course, you can load all this in when you import your students as well. So with that said, we can go ahead and look at work-based learning activities. You can see that I've got a lot here, but we'll just take a look at guest speaking on entrepreneurship. All right, so here you can see that we give the activity a name. We identify the type of activity. So again, everything from guest speakers to apprenticeships. We have capstones in here, service learning, project-based learning, job shadows, internships, externships, and so on. We identify the company we're going to work with, or the employer, pulled from your list of partners. And as we scroll down, we can see we've got some basic information on the activity, the date, time, location of the activity, and a place to put some information on the activity. So a description of the activity, the objectives of the activity, what we're trying to accomplish, a place to list the students who are going to participate. So as I said, we can list students one at a time. I'll take those off. Or we can identify the class or the organization that those students are part of. So we select one and all those students log in. And we can still add students if we want to. And finally, a place to offer details on the students. The reason we're putting all this information in here is because this is going to end up as an emailed invitation to your employer partner. So your employers will see the type of activity, date, time, location, other information, so you're providing them context on what it is you're trying to do, a description of the activity, what you're trying to accomplish. Of course, the system is FERPA compliant, so your employers will never see identifiable student information. They will not see the student names or the tags. They will see the number of students and details that you choose to share on the students. If we scroll up, we can see where we invite our employers. We have Emily Moore from Plum Good already invited. She is accepted. We can also add additional people if we wanted to, maybe somebody else from Plum Good. And so basically, once we send this, they'll get an email with all the information along with an accept button and a decline button. And once they respond, you'll get an email saying what they've agreed to do, if they're going to participate or not. It'll also be updated here in the system. As you can see, Emily Moore received the email, she accepted, so it shows up here as accepted. When you send that email, you can also send a calendar invitation and you can send documents as well. So, or links. So you can upload documents. You can either upload them from your desktop or from the library. And there's also a document management feature, so you decide who's going to see the documents that you post, because your employers can log in and see this, the ones you've invited to this. Your students, if you've tagged them with the activity, they can log in and see this as well. So you decide who sees which documents. So here we have a tip sheet on being a good guest speaker. I want my partner to see that, but not my students. Maybe I upload a list of questions for students to ask. So I want the students to see that, but not the employer. And your employers and your students can also upload documents and other materials for you as the educator. So there is that document management feature. So we'll look next at the library of resources. And here you can see we've got close to 50 templates for work-based learning advisory boards. These are basically just time savers. If you're starting a new advisory board, you need bylaws. Well, we have 4 different templates for bylaws, for example, that you can download and customize. If you're an administrator and you don't want your educators to see our templates, you want to upload your own, you can turn all of ours off, upload your own, and then your educators will only see your templates. All right, so advisory boards. You can have multiple advisory boards. Take a look at our skilled trades board. And so you can see we've got our membership list here, and you can pull members from your list of partners. You can pull them from your fellow educators or administrators. identify when their term expires, the type of member that they are, what their role is on the board, general board member, or they've got some sort of a leadership position. You can have subcommittees or task forces that you create. You can set up meetings. And so here you can see we've got date and time of the meeting, type of meeting that it is, board meeting, executive board, subcommittee, and so on, and who we want to invite. So full board list, just your executive committee, and so on. We also, and this is a brand new feature as of last week, we also have a button to create your sign-in sheets. So actually, if your school logo was uploaded here, your school logo would appear here instead of the Seamless logo, with our list of members and a few additional spaces. We can also track meeting participation, so we can see who we invited, if they responded prior to the meeting to accept or decline, and who actually showed up. So we're actually able to run reports to show activity among advisory board members. We can see who actually comes to meetings and who does not. We have the location of the meeting. We can upload documents, so we can upload our agenda, additional documents prior to the meeting that we want people to read. You can send this out to your members, and when the meeting is over, you log back in and you post your minutes and your sign-in sheets, so those are all stored in the system. So your administrators, if they're looking for meeting minutes and sign-in sheets, can go into each advisory board and collect all the documentation at once. So if we look at that library, so here we can see all of our general documents, bylaws, other documents, maybe program flyers or things like that, along with every document from every meeting we've held, which is a great resource for your advisory board members as well, because they have access to this library. And so if you've got a new member and you want to get them up to speed quickly, they can log in, see the bylaws, see the past meeting minutes, and get up to speed pretty quickly. So the last thing we'll look at in the Educator portal are the reports. So we have a few different reports for educators. We can see, first of all, just general work-based learning activity. And so I can see every partner that I worked with, along with their organization, date and time of the activity, type of activity, and how many students participated. Now with this report, just like every report, you can print or export this report. It'll print just like a regular print document. You can export this to Excel. So if you wanted to share this around, maybe format it differently, you have that option. We have a partner activity report, so I can see by partner, by individual, everything that those people have done with me. And if they've been putting in their volunteer hours, those are summed up here as well. I have a student activity report. And so I can search by tag, I can search by student name, and I can get a complete history of work-based learning for each of the students in my building. They can run the same report through the student portal, so if they're maybe building a resume, getting ready for an interview, they have a complete history of every work-based learning activity they've done, what type of activity it was, and what organization they did that with. We have a brand new report, which is my advisory board report, so I can see by member who actually attended meetings and who did not. And the only meetings that show up are those that have been completed. So, you want to be able to track participation. There's an additional report for administrators. So I'm going to go back to the administrator portal. So one additional report is my school activity report. And so I can see across my entire school every work-based learning activity that all of my educators are doing. So here, Brett Pulowski, he's doing a ton of stuff. I can see the organizations that he's working with, types of activities, how many students participated. As I scroll down, I see a second educator. So she's only done one activity, but all of my educators are shown in a single report. If I'm a district administrator, I can run the same report for all of my schools simultaneously. So I don't think I pointed this out earlier, but I am set up as a district admin. I've got my list of schools up here at the top. If I want to run a report for all of those schools, I just identify every school I want to show up in the report. Run the report. And so my Smith High School educators show up at the top. So there's Brett Pulowski again, here's Martha Lee, and here's an educator from another building. So all of my educators from across all my buildings, whichever ones I've chosen, will show up in this one report. So I get a real-time snapshot of work-based learning across my district, across my region, whatever my service area is. So with that, I'm going to log out of here and log into the employer portal, after which we'll take a look at the student portal. Okay, so we're going to log in as an employer. So the important thing to think about for the employer portal is that employers can only see the things that you have invited them to see. So this employer has been invited to manage their company profile, and so they can keep their information current, they can identify their list of opportunities, and they can actually change the list of opportunities. See, they've got a list here of all the schools that they work with. They can manage their opportunities by school. Maybe they work with one school that's 2 miles away, another that's 20 miles away, and they want to vary what each school sees. They can do that. Emily Moore can see all the work-based learning activities that we have invited her to. So you can see she sees information on the activity. She does not see the names of students. Again, the system is FERPA compliant. She can accept or decline the activity. She can log her volunteer hours. She can post comments for the educator to see. She can also download documents from the educator, and she can upload documents for the educator. And this is particularly helpful for document-intensive activities like internships. Tend to be a lot of documents with internships. The educator can manage all of those here. Now, because Emily Moore belongs to an advisory board, we can also see board activity. So as an employer, she can log in and see date, time, location of the activity, documents associated with the activity, and every board member who is invited in case she needs to reach out prior. She can also see that list of documents, that library for the advisory board. And so she can see all the documents associated with this board as a board member. And the last thing is she can create job board postings for students to search. Again, she'll complete this. An educator or an administrator has to review it and approve it before students are able to see it. But she can post these for educators to review and post here. And those will be searchable directly by students. The last thing we'll look at is the student portal. And so this is what a student sees. They can see, first of all, their own activities, and just like the employer, they can see information, they can't really edit it. You can see, so this student can go back for every activity she has been tagged with. She can go back in and see the details. She can also log her hours. So maybe it was a job shadow, for example. She can come back in, log how many hours she spent. 4 hours for a job shadow, 120 hours for an internship. One of the things coming in the next phase, which should be March or April of next year, Right now, students can just post a summary single number of hours, but starting in March, they'll be able to post detailed hours. So they'll be able to say December 10th from 3 to 5, December 11th from 4 to 6, and so on. So you get a very detailed sort of time log of their participation in an activity. They can also post comments for the educator to see. If the educator has assigned documents to the students, they can download this here. They can also upload documents, so self-assessments or whatever. They can also run their own reports on the work-based learning activities, along with their participation hours if they've posted those. And students can also search the job board. They can search for various criteria. And so here they can see information on specific activities, along with information on how to apply. So with that, I'm going to go back to the slides. We can always jump back into the system if you have particular questions. But just a few other things that I wanted to touch on before we get to the Q&A. So we've talked about a lot of the features that were just added in December. There's one that we're still developing that's going to be launched January 1st, and this is a big one. We're building a tool that allows educators to build student learning agreements for internships, co-ops, externships, job shadows, and the like. The tool will have a point-and-click interface so you can decide what components are in the student learning agreement. All the text is customizable, so we will offer pre-formatted text, but you can add to ours, change ours, do whatever you want, so they fit your school. This student learning agreement is also tied into ONET, so you can identify specific skills, knowledge, and activities, and so on, that you want the student to complete during the work-based learning activity. And again, that's coming out in January. So the natural question is, what does Seamless cost? Seamless is available as a school-wide annual subscription, and the cost is determined by the number of students in the building. You can see the cost is anywhere from $500 to $1,500 per year. That is an all-inclusive price, so there is no setup fee. There's no extra cost for training unless we do offer virtual training. If you want us on-site, of course, there is an additional cost for that, but the user guides, training videos, FAQs, we do user training twice a month, and those are all free. So there's no additional cost on top of this, no cost to your employers or anything like that. If you are somebody who would be the only educator or administrator using the system, no other educator, no other administrator needs to be able to log in. That's a single user account. That's $500 per year. You can still put all your student information in there, all your employer information in there. If you are somebody who oversees a school district or a regional initiative, maybe an ESA, you're part of a state Department of Education, we do have discounts from multiple sites, starting at 4 schools at 10% off. It goes up from there. Basically, we just need to see which schools are in your area. We can offer you an estimate for that, so you just get in touch with me for that. So what happens after this walkthrough? We will be emailing you information on the system. You can visit seamlesswbl.com for information. We have a detailed list of all the features in the system under the Features tab. Also, our pricing information is posted on the website under the Pricing tab. So everything we've talked about, you'll be able to find on the website. If you don't see what you're looking for on the site or through the information we email you, you can certainly call me or email me with questions. And I'm actually going to advance a couple of slides just so my contact information stays up there for you. So we are going into the Q&A session. If you have questions, please do put them in the questions area. I'll go ahead and open up that panel. All right, so we have a few questions here. Let's see. Wondering if you'll show us on the OJT tracking and if students can track the apprenticeship hours online. That is one of the features that's coming in the spring. So right now, students can enter a single number. It's fairly rudimentary. But starting in March or April, they will be able to enter very detailed information. So really essentially entering their timesheets, which employers will be able to validate. So we don't have that feature available to show yet, but that is coming in March or April. So the next question, which is associated with that question, could we see the report for the students tracking their hours? Also, can administrators run the reports of the student hours? So the detailed reports will be coming, again, in March or April. Right now, students can't enter a single number. That does show up in the student activity reports. And administrators absolutely can run reports of the student hours, both now and in the future. Okay, so we have a question, I guess more of a comment. Someone emailed a bit ago to get a quote from multiple high schools. Once I see that email, I'll certainly respond with an estimate. Shouldn't take more than 24 hours. Another question, can your product be customized as a relationship management system for industry partnerships? I am so glad you asked that, because that is basically we have one big idea for every upgrade to the system. Our August upgrade was to develop portals for employers and students. This latest one was to flesh out the advisory board piece and the student learning agreements. Our big idea for our March-April version 4.0 is to add in the relationship management components, so that not only do you have a place for notes, but you can track every piece of correspondence, every phone call, every email you've sent. You can send customized surveys through the system. So absolutely, relationship management system, that's what's going into Seamless in phase 4 around March or April. So that is directly on point. Thank you for that question. All right, so let's see if we have any additional questions. If not, we'll go ahead and close out the walkthrough. I want to certainly appreciate everyone for your time. And I'm not seeing any other questions, so again, thank you all for your time. We do have another question. Does the system integrate with Microsoft? I'm not quite sure what sort of integration you would be looking for. We are able to include links everywhere, so if you want students to go to Google Docs or employers to go to Google Docs, or link them to a resource online, we can do that. All of our templates are Microsoft documents, and you can certainly send Microsoft documents, Word docs, Excel docs, and that sort of thing through the system, but I think I'd need to have a conversation to see what sort of integration you're talking about. And please feel free to email me directly about that. All right, I want to thank everyone for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day. Again, if you have any questions, my contact information is on the screen. Thanks very much for your interest. Hope to talk to you soon.